back, especially the body part. We had a couple guys that were dinged up a little bit. So yesterday we spent a lot of time on the mental part, took a look at some film, had guys come in for treatment and some different things yesterday. And then so we'll be a little bit fresher than normal today. We'll practice today, see how it goes today with some guys, and then we'll go from there and continue to work in our preparation for Purdue. Purdue obviously came off a great win at home over Nebraska. It looks to me like watching the film, their defense is continuing to improve and get better. They've got a lot of young guys. They're playing a lot of players. They've had 7 different starting lineups in their last 8 games, different guys contributing in each game. Obviously, the 2 Johnson brothers are very talented. Their tempo is a lot higher than it has been in the past. Right around top 35 to 40 in the country in pace. So you got to get back, you got to get the ball stopped, got to get your defense set. They've got great size with Hammonds, and when he's in the game, obviously he affects the game not only on the offensive end with his ability to post the ball, but on the defensive end, he's 5th in the country in shot block percentage on the individual side of those statistics. So, he's a guy that affects the game with his size. There's not a ton of guys like him in college basketball, so that makes it a little bit unique. And then Tyrone Johnson has been a load. You look at his statistics in his career against Illinois. Last year he had 25 in one game, 18 in the other game. So he's really talented offensively and scores it in a multitude of ways, which makes him difficult to defend. They've added a couple 3-point shooters in Stevens and Carter. Peck can make them as well that stretch the defense a little bit. So, it'll be a challenge tomorrow for us. Defensively, defending those guards and dealing with Hammond's size. So that'll be a challenge for sure. Offensively for us, we've got to continue, I think, to execute. I thought we've executed fairly well on Sunday. We just got to step up and make a few more. We had shot 50% on 2s throughout the season, leading into last week, and then shot 32% last week. So, our body of work, over 15 games, I'm gonna choose that as the glass half full rather than over the span of 2 games. So we've got to knock a few more of those in. Our guys know that, and I'm confident that we will. Questions?
You said 50% on 2s going into the Northwestern game,
going into
Wisconsin.
Going into last week. Yeah, okay. And then we were 32% last week. Yep.
Sprain. Is there a level or grade that he
I don't know. I won't know until we practice today. We're going to practice today. We didn't do anything physical yesterday. Like I said, it was all mental. He came in and got treatment. He's already been in today and received treatment. He'll receive another treatment this afternoon. He's going to practice today. To what level or where he's at or what percentage or how much does he play tomorrow. A lot of it depends on how practice goes today, and then the doctors and our sports medicine staff and myself will get together and make a decision on what's best for Ray.
John, is it likely to be more a matter of how effective he is rather than whether he can get on the floor at all?
Maybe. Again, I don't know. If I was guessing, Tup, I think you're probably right. But again, I got to watch him practice today, and then I'll have much more of a feel. My instincts probably tell me what you're saying there. It's probably more, effectiveness, but we'll see. As I said early on, we're not going to do anything to harm our guys. We're going to do what's best for Ray Rice.
You guys talked through that. If Ray wasn't able to go, if he'd made that determination, what direction you would go?
Well, we're going to continue to do what we've done. Obviously, the guys are going to have to step up at that point. Guys who have played are going to be would be asked to play a little bit more, obviously. But I don't think a whole lot changes in terms of scheme and all those different things. We're going to be who we are, and especially on the defensive end, Tup. I was really proud of our effort, our toughness on Sunday on the defensive end. I didn't think we tied that at all to the offensive end, which was good. We've rebounded the ball well. We've taken good care of the basketball. We got to continue to do those things well, regardless of who we play and who's out there.
You talk about the players needing amnesia after games like this. As a staff, Is it difficult to have amnesia after a game like that?
Well, I mean, obviously, the older you get, I think you get more experience, Jeremy. I've been through this, so many years where you've had, games where you'd like to play a little bit better or make a few more, or, hindsight's always 20/20. You learn that. I think you get more accustomed to that, the more experience that you have as a coach. I think experience is a great teacher. I've said that before. So I think probably, a little, I shouldn't say it's not easy, period, but for anyone that's involved. But I think it's probably a little bit easier for, us than 18 to 22-year-olds. Although, most of those guys, to be honest with you, they're worried about where their next meal is. When are we eating next? What's on the itinerary? So sometimes they can get over it pretty easily too, and kind of get to the next one. You can't control it. We've talked all along about it being 18 rounds, and this is round 5 on Wednesday, and you got to be ready to go. Each game, I think, as you're a player, you start to understand that every game is a separate entity. You can't, get caught up in, hey, does the last game affect this game, good or bad? Does the last game affect Purdue, what good or, I think what you got to do is look at every game in singular fashion. If you did that, I mean, you could look at scores. I was told the staff the other day, I mean, Duke gets beat at Clemson. Auburn has a great win against Clemson. You start like matching all that. Well, that means this team. I think that you drive yourself crazy doing that. That's not what this is about. Every game is different. Every game is its separate entity, and we've got to treat it as such. And that's why we've talked about it being 18 rounds.
Other than shots not going in, were there other breakdowns offensively, or was there something?
No, not really. I thought our execution was good. We got what we wanted, especially out of timeouts. I thought we screened pretty well. I thought we adjusted to different things they were doing pretty well. Our spacing at times I thought could have been a little bit better, but overall was pretty good. I thought we were able to get what we wanted a lot. We had 59 first shot opportunities in the game. I thought 48 of them, as I went back through the film, were like, hey, really good, which is a great percentage in terms of getting good shots. So. I really think that was on Sunday. I think that was primarily the case there. We got to knock a few more in. You have games like that, and sometimes it happens. You don't want them to happen, but I was really proud of the way that we defended. We were anemic enough offensively. Had we not guarded like that, we wouldn't have had a chance at the end of the game. So I thought that showed great maturity on our guys' part, and they continued to battle and fight. And, for the most part, we've done that all year.
You said he screened well.
Yeah.
Is it fair to say that Nana is getting better at holding his screens?
I think so, Rob. Yeah, I thought he screened well. I thought we screened well on our inbound plays. I thought we screened well on different things we ran. I thought we cut pretty hard. I thought we got the ball where we wanted. Most of the time, we did some good things there. The execution clearly has gotten better, from when we were sitting in here talking about that in December, like, hey, our execution, our timing, I mean, that's not even close. I mean, it's so much better now than it was then. So we just got to continue to build on that.
You've got a number of guys on your team who've been through a lot in college basketball, whether here or somewhere else, and then you've got your freshmen on the bench who haven't had a certain level of adversity on the basketball court throughout their careers to this point. How have the older guys helped them get through like that?
Yeah, sure. I think they help tremendously. They meet a lot. They talk a lot with those guys. They've done a great job of leading. I thought Abrams was really vocal again on Sunday and made some plays and really, huddled guys and got them together. And, those things are going to serve us well, moving forward. Our guys really like one another. They spend a lot of time together on and off the court. We have really, good leadership, good chemistry. I've said all along I really like our guys. I like the character of our team. So, we just got to keep building on that. But I think they've done a really good job of, helping those guys, kind of understand how you got to look at each game one at a time and how, it's so unique. I overheard Tracy saying the other day, and he was right. I mean, late in the year last year, I think we played Penn State here, and they were playing really well. They hadn't won a game. Well, then they beat Michigan in the next one. And then a month later, Michigan's playing for the national championship. So you can't – you have to, stay level as much as you can. I think those experience level, those veterans, Marcus, I think has been very, very helpful.
This past week with.
I think they've been pretty steady with it, with their leadership, but I think, yeah, obviously when adversity hits, I think that's when you really learn a lot about your leadership and who guys are, and not surprising, that those guys have been the way that they've been all week this week.
In the hand checking, I thought Purdue made immediately with the way they defended in the past. Have they been affected by that with how they defend at all?
Watching the film, I really haven't noticed that, Jeremy. In my opinion, and this is no, I'm not picking on the officials. In my opinion, I think the game's been called a little bit differently, non-conference versus in my opinion. Just my opinion. That doesn't mean, someone else may have a different opinion. I think it's been very fair, but, I've watched all these clips here this past week. I mean, I think more hand checks were called. I think more bumps were called early on than they are now. And, again, that's just my opinion, so.
I mean, is there a fear that's going to change again in March when you get different? I mean,
I don't think so. I think there's a learning curve. I said that all along early on with the freedom of movement, concept. I was just hoping that it would stay more consistent. But, yeah, it is what it is. You got to adjust. You got to adapt. They're doing the best job that they can. I do think that the games for the most part have been fairly consistent. I got no problem with that. I just think it was much different in November than it is now, Jim. I think it was, called a little bit tighter as I'm watching bodies on guys and hands and arm bars and, different things. But again, it's been consistent. We got to figure out a way to play through that and figure out how to adjust and adapt. That's what good teams do.
Rice and Abrams have been so good attacking the basket. Do you go right at Hammonds? Do you go at a big guy? Do you go at a shot blocker?
Well, I mean, you have to have an intelligence and a purpose about that, Jim, obviously. I think certainly that's part of it. You got to be aggressive. You can't back down, But at the same time, I think you have to be intelligent about how you attack him. And, obviously he's a great presence in the paint, really affects defensive field goal percentage, really protects the rim well. Reminiscent a little bit of when you watch the NBA and you watch Roy Hibbert play for the Pacers, very similar. Great rim protector. I think Hammonds' body's changed. I give him a lot of credit for that. I thought last year he was really good at both ends, but I think he's even a little bit more mobile now. He looks like he's really done some work with his, with his body, which has allowed him to be even more effective. He's doing okay. Mike had the concussion, and there's a process and procedures and protocol that he has to go through in order to come back. He's on track right now. I don't know if he'll be cleared for tomorrow. I'm not certain on that yet. That's up to our doctors and our sports medicine staff. He has to pass certain requirements and tests in a certain order in order to be cleared for full go.
Guards in the Big Ten, is Tyrone Johnson possibly the most comparable to Ray Rice in terms of his game?
It's a good question, Rob. I think their bodies, both of them are pretty strong guards. Yeah, there are some similarities there. I really hadn't thought about that, but they certainly both can hurt you from long range, mid-range. They drive the ball well. They're confrontational drivers. Johnson will post some. We post Ray some. There are some similarities there in their offensive games. I think part of what makes Ray so good offensively and Johnson so good offensively is their versatility. They score in a lot of different ways.
Malcolm seems to have certain skills. Just how is he progressing?
He's getting better. I thought in the 4 minutes he played well. He did some good things in there. He's coming along and, growing up and maturing, and we're going to need him to, play better and potentially more here as long as he's consistent with his mindset and his preparation. I think he's gotten better with those things for sure, and has had to grow up pretty quickly. So, I like the progress he's making, and I thought he was pretty effective. He got Mav a 2-point jumper the other day. He drew a foul. I thought he put the ball on the floor and got in the paint a couple times. I know the one time was a charge call, but there was at least some aggressiveness there. So, I think he's getting better.
We have any questions from the phone lines for Coach Groce?
Hey guys, David Mercer with AP. I didn't catch all of the exchange about Ray Rice and what your instinct tells you about his situation. Would you mind kind of rehashing that a little bit?
Sure. We practice here this afternoon. Ray has an adductor strain, and we'll see how he looks here this afternoon. That's going to determine how much he plays, if he plays, and how effective he plays. So we'll know more this afternoon.
And you said you kind of lean it in which direction based on your gut feeling there?
Well, I mean, Tup just said, and Ray wants to play. Obviously, he wanted to play the other day. It was my instinct saying, it's going to be basically how effective is he going to be? Is he going to be able to go? That's my instinct. But again, I'm not a doctor. I trust Paul Schmidt a lot. Paul's our director of sports medicine and is in charge of our team when it comes to that. So I'll trust their judgment, and I'll talk to Ray, obviously. We want to do what's best for Ray.
Thanks. Hey, John, this is Jamal Collier. I didn't catch when that Ray Rice injury happened. Did it happen during the Wisconsin game, or is it some before that?
Happened in the Northwestern game.
Greenberg, John. I wanted to ask you about Iki. I'm not sure these numbers are accurate, but I think he's something like 5 of his last 24 from 3-point range. What are you telling him, and how's he shooting in practice? And is his confidence up and all that?
I tell him to keep shooting, and he makes them in practice, and he works at it in practice. So, he's going to keep shooting. Nana's going to keep shooting. They're going to keep shooting.
And on the freshmen the other night, did you go in with the intention to play Hill and Tate, as little as they played, or was it just something about the way the game was going?
Yeah, more instincts than anything else. I thought Abrams was rolling. I thought he was the one guy that looked really good offensively, looked really locked in, was in attack mode. Felt comfortable with him being out there. Certainly nothing against Jalen at all, and Jalen's got to continue to develop and grow and get better, and we're going to need Jalen, moving forward, not only this year but, throughout his career and as we're building our program. So he's got to continue to get better. He came in this morning and did extra work, and all those guys got to get better. I mean, we got to get better, and those guys are working hard to improve. But, I don't go into a game necessarily saying, hey, I have to play this guy this amount of minutes. I do oftentimes will put guys in based on how they practiced, because I want those guys to understand that practice matters. Sometimes we'll put certain guys in based on matchups, who they're guarding. I think it's important. How do they match up? So we'll do that some. But a lot of it is just instincts.
John, this is Shannon. I think you answered this with the leadership question, but just overall, do you feel like the guys are responding mentally, emotionally, like the way you want them to? Is it any different than how they came off Wisconsin that kind of tells you they're maybe in a different mode mentally for the next game?
No, they've been good. I mean, they've been positive. They've led well. I just said that to Marcus. They've done a great job. We came in this morning. They were really locked in. So, I've got no problem with their effort, their attitude, their toughness. They've done some things really well. And we just got to make a few more plays here and there, and I think we can do that. Our body of work shows that, and play a little bit better in some areas. But we've defended well. We've rebounded the ball better than any team I've coached in my 6 years, percentage-wise, and we take care of the ball really well. So, those are all good things, and we got to continue to do those things. They're not automatics, and then we got to get better to, we got to figure out a way to be more efficient on offense a little bit and knock a few more in.
Anything else from the phone lines? Any other questions in here?
Okay, thanks, guys.